Madam President, I will vote to ratify the New START treaty between the United States and Russia because it leaves our country with enough nuclear warheads to blow any attacker to kingdom come, and because the President has committed to an $85 billion 10-year plan to make sure that those weapons work. I will vote for the treaty because it allows for inspection of Russian warheads and because our military leaders say it does nothing to interfere with the development of a missile defense system. I will vote for the treaty because the last 6 Republican secretaries of state support its ratification. In short, I'm convinced that Americans are safer and more secure with the New START treaty than without it. Under the terms of the treaty, the United States may have 1,550 deployed strategic nuclear weapons, each one up to 30 times more powerful than the one used at Hiroshima to end World War II. The U.S. will also gain valuable data, including through inspection operations that should provide a treasure trove of intelligence about Russian activities that we would not have without the treaty, and that we have not had since the START treaty expired on December 9, 2009. Over the weekend, the President sent a letter to the Senate reaffirming that, quote, the United States will continue to develop and deploy effective missile defense, unquote. There is nothing within the treaty itself, let me emphasize that, nothing within the treaty itself that would hamper the development of missile defense or its deployment. Our military and intelligence leaders all have said that. Obviously, something could happen down the road involving differences over missile defense systems that could require either country, Russia or the United States, to withdraw from the treaty. That is any sovereign country's right with any treaty. In 2002, President Bush withdrew from the anti-ballistic missile treaty because of our desire to pursue missile defenses to protect us from an attack by a rogue state. I ask consent to include in the record the President's letter on missile defense.
Without objection.
Madam President, ratifying this treaty would extend the policies of President Nixon, President Reagan, President George H.W. Bush, President George W. Bush, as well as Democratic presidents. I ask unanimous consent to include in the record the statements of the last 6 Republican secretaries of state, all of whom support ratification of the treaty.
Without objection.
Nevertheless, this treaty was presented in the Senate on May 13th. After 12 hearings in 2 committees and many briefings, the Foreign Relations Committee reported the treaty to the Senate on September 16 in a bipartisan vote of 14-4. For several months, there have been intense negotiations to develop a realistic plan and the funding for nuclear modernization. That updated plan was reported on November 17th. The Senate voted to proceed to the treaty last Wednesday. I voted no because I thought there should still be more time allowed for amendment and debate. But despite the flawed process, I believe the treaty and the nuclear modernization plan make our country safer and more secure. It will allow us to resume inspection and verification of disarmament of nuclear weapons in Russia. The head of our missile defense system says the treaty will not hamper our missile development program. And if it does, we can withdraw from the treaty. All 6 former Republican secretaries of state support ratification of this treaty. Therefore, I will vote to ratify the New START treaty and during the next several years, vote to fund the nuclear modernization plan. Madam President, I thank the chair and I yield the floor.